I love that. It's like my favorite thing.
All right, welcome to another episode of Trash Pandas.
Trash Pandas.
I'm Lindsay, and this is my co-host,
Lauren.
and we have a special guest joining us tonight, Dave. We're going to be talking about the Netflix documentary American Murder, The Family Next Door. But before
I'm starting to kind of get a complex. I feel like you guys only bring me in for like the super creepy shit.
Yeah. Duh.
You're my super creeper. I love it.
Before we get into that, Lolo, have you been watching anything? Have you been?
I have, actually. I finally saw that on Hulu. They put on The United States of Terra.
Oh, yeah.
And so I started that. I know I'm years and years and years late, but it's actually pretty decent. I like it so far. It's not anything too spectacular. I don't think that it was like the best show ever, like people kept making it out to be. But, you know.
I love Toni Collette.
Yes.
She's awesome.
She is awesome. And she's a really amazing actress.
Was that the one? I'm trying to remember. Like, that sounds familiar. Like, I watched it when it was on. Was that the one with the girl? Like, did she have multiple personalities?
Yeah, multiple personalities. Yep. And so she's got like Buck and then a girl named Alice, and she's like from the 50s. And then Buck is like this super, manly man, like just wants to seduce all the women, smokes a lot of cigarettes and drinks a lot of beer and gets in a lot of fights.
Perfect.
Already then.
My kind of guy, right? So
Love it.
So I've been watching that, and then on top of that, I've just kind of been like on a documentary kick, and you got me into The Vow, so I've been watching
There
that.
are so many.
And Love Fraud, which is another one that I'm like really into, and I think that we're probably gonna do an episode about that because it's really fucking good. I'm not gonna lie, I love it. But other than that, I haven't really had a lot of time to watch a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so I've definitely been watching The Vow. It got so much better after the first 3 episodes. Because the NXIVM sex cult, I mean, if you're into true crime, you knew a lot about it already. There has been so many specials on various TV shows about the NXIVM sex cult. So a lot of it, the first 3 episodes is like just rehashing that information, which I was like, okay, is this what this is all about? And then come around to like the 4th or 5th episode and you're like, holy shit, like there's so much more stuff involved. It's really good. So The Vow on HBO, highly recommend checking that one out. Keith Raniere is such a freaking loser. I can't even
For real.
It's so shocking to me that how he got people to like buy into his bullshit. But
I feel like that's most cult leaders.
yeah, I mean, I don't
Like, really? Like that?
It's true.
Like
Yeah,
that's who you
true.
decided to dedicate your life to.
And
They
you know,
don't
it's-
have anything that's too spectacular. Like he's just kind of like spewing bullshit
Well,
the entire
yeah,
time, and
it's-
it's very Scientology to me.
It's all too like hindsight is 2020, so
Right.
it's hard, and you don't want to victim blame, but at the same time, I'm like, what the fuck. So
Just
I've been
walk me through the flow chart of your life
right, like
that led you
walk
there.
me through how you were okay with someone branding you.
Right.
I mean, like cattle.
These
like,
women literally got branded like next to their Britneys and of like his initials.
but they didn't know it was his initials
Right.
at the time.
We'll get into that
Yeah,
on a
okay,
different
Wow.
day. But
All
yeah,
right,
it's,
so
it's intense.
I'll tune in and watch that.
It's
'cause-
intense.
All right, that'll be the next creepy shit I talk about.
I will say though, like, okay, so her and I were watching it. It's like the first like 2 or 3 episodes are kind of just like going over like
rehashing stuff you already knew.
yeah,
about
like
it.
how they got into the cult and
Okay.
like, what drew them in. So it's kind of a little bit
Yeah.
like there's nothing really going on. But then after that, it's like
It
this
explodes.
huge explosion.
It
right.
explodes.
So
Well, I mean, that's a lot of series where, like, they give you, like, basically, I always say I will give almost any show 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually it's that first 3 episodes where, okay, you've got to slog through the plot exposition, the character introduction,
Right.
da-da-da-da-da.
Right, yeah.
So, okay, so you have those 3 episodes to convince me that this is still worth watching.
Right.
yeah.
So, loved that. And then the other thing that I just started today was Bailey Sarian, who she's a YouTube personality, and she does Murder and Makeup Mondays. And all it is is she's sitting there doing her full face of makeup, and she's telling you about a true crime story.
And it's really good.
And
And her makeup is really good too.
Her makeup's fantastic. And like, those are my two passions: makeup and murder.
Yep.
And so
Same.
I'm kind of, first of all, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of jealous I didn't come up with the concept first. But the other thing is she does really great research, and there was a bunch of stuff that we're gonna talk about that she actually talked about when she covered the Watts family annihilation. So we'll talk about some of the stuff that Bailey told us.
The things we learned about Bailey.
The things we learned from Bailey. But yeah, if you want to check out, if you're super into murder, if you like makeup, I would highly suggest.
If you're super into murder.
Listen,
okay. I mean, that's...
And super into makeup.
Okay, Dave, I'm super into murder. I have said that a million times. Like, it's like, Lindsay, introduce yourself. What are some of your likes? I like murder. So
See, this is why the meme is floating around that says, "Hey, you know what? If that big titty goth girl like gives you the time of day, this is not the time. Like, she's queuing you up for a sacrifice. It's October. Like, not this month."
Listen, I can't believe I'm admitting this on air, but it's one of those things where my boyfriend's like, "Why do you like this stuff so much?" And I'm like,
Research.
watch your back.
Yeah.
Like,
Just know that I know how to cover up a murder
yeah.
better than other people
just
do.
know I will get away with it. Oh my
They'll
God,
never
this
find
is
you.
definitely gonna come back to haunt me. Like, this is like,
I'm going to be
so
questioned for a
much-
murder
yeah.
tomorrow.
Right, like
Exhibits A through Q, Your Honor.
They show us. It's literally just us on the podcast being like, I love murder. Murder is so great. But also,
Oh my God,
do you
and I
have
totally
the
get
right
away
type
with
of
it.
foundation?
right.
How to tell if you're
How
wearing
are
too
you
much makeup.
highlighting your cheeks, bitch. Okay, so let's dive.
Let's get right into it. I'm
Into
excited.
this.
I think
So-
a lot of people are excited.
Yeah,
so.
thank you all for tuning in. We had a lot of people saying, we're going to be checking this out. We're so excited for this podcast. So thank you for,
No pressure.
yeah, I know, no pressure, right? So I want to start off by saying that this documentary is based solely on primary resources. So everything that we see is everything in the entire documentary. It's nobody talking about it. These are live videos. These are text messages. These are police body cams.
It's contemporary evidence
It
or
is.
contemporaneous evidence. It's stuff that was stuff
Right.
at the time,
Mhm.
not after the fact.
It's
And-
not like reenactments. It's
No.
not people doing interviews.
No, and
Literally
that's why
just footage.
I really found this documentary so fascinating and so different than any other true crime thing I've ever seen before, is that there was just so much of that evidence. So it opens up with footage of Shanann's Facebook and Facebook Live and her introducing herself. I'm Shanann Watts. I live in Frederick, Colorado. And you see her and her girls, Bella and Cece. And she explains how her family ended up in Colorado, which was basically Chris took a job out there, and they just really seem like an idyllic family, like happy,
Absolutely.
very cute little
Oh,
girls.
great job,
Yeah.
big house,
Big
A
house,
beautiful
yeah.
house.
you know,
It's
2.5 kids,
Right.
the fence,
exactly.
yard. I mean, it's-
Literally
it's the-
2.5
like
kids.
if it would have been a white picket fence, I probably would have turned
I
it
would have
off because
thrown
I'm like
up.
it's the 50s kiss my ass.
No,
this stuff.
it's
Right.
it's definitely the American dream. So Q2, August 13th, 2018.
The word you're looking for is foreshadowing.
Right. Hey, I'm the English teacher here. So anyways, the Ring camera shows, they have a Ring camera on their house, and it shows the last known footage of Shanann alive. And she's walking into her house around like 2 a.m. A car had just dropped her off. The next thing you see after that is 2 missed phone calls from her best friend, Nicole Atkinson, and a text from her at 8:55 saying, just wanted to see if you were okay. Then let me know how your appointment goes. And then at 9:21 a.m., finally 11:46, I'm very worried about you. I'm coming to your house.
Girls, let's just let me make this abundantly clear. Get you a Nicole.
Yeah,
For real. No,
I
actually.
wrote the next thing I wrote was girlfriend is a murderino. Like, she
For
knows.
sure.
Like, if any of you follow the MFM podcast, like My Favorite Murder podcast, like this is a murderino. She's obsessed. She's watched Dateline 1 or 2 times. She knows. She fucking knows.
She's seen an episode of Cold Case Files.
Right. Like she's the girlfriend you want to have in your corner.
And let me just tell you that in reality, this has like happened to me before where like one time Lindsay called me.
Oh, God.
She didn't call me. She messaged me.
Oh, my
And she
God.
said, "Hey girl, you should come over and hang out with me." And I was like, "Okay." And seconds later I called her, she didn't answer. I call her again, she didn't answer. And so
She thought
I
was killed by Spencer.
I start driving to her house because the way that she texted me was like come over and hang out with me and talk.
Yeah.
So it seemed like
Something was wrong.
Something is amiss.
not necessarily that just that maybe she just needs someone to talk to. And
Yeah,
so
or, hey,
I
I've had a shit day.
I
something.
called my roommates and I was like, my cousin's not responding to me. She just messaged me saying that she wanted to talk. Like, she's not responding. I'm on my way to her house. Will you like let the dogs out kind of thing? And I drove over to her house, and as I'm like pulling down her street, she calls me and she's like, "Hey, Sarah, I was like in the shower or whatever you were doing." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'm about to pull down your street right now because I'm just checking
now
on
I'm
you."
freaked out.
A minute ago, you said, "Come over, I need to talk," and then all of a sudden, you went MIA. So, I am your Nicole, that's for sure.
Well,
I was
there
like,
was-
"I'm coming to get you, girl."
There was also a meme circulating this week, and it was a picture of Nicole that morning, and it was like, because of Nicole Atkinson, like she made it so Chris Watts had 0 time to basically cover his tracks. Like
Right.
she was so on it that like she lessened that gap of somebody reporting her missing and then doing this, and like so it didn't allow him any time to basically come up with a story or do anything like that. So that's really interesting.
And that's one of the things that actually that I found kind of just blew me away throughout the course of this is so the entire duration of this investigation is 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
And it was it's because she was there calling the cops.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm worried about my friend. The very next
Vigilant
morning.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She wanted to make sure that her friend was okay.
And she kind of had, which isn't shown in the documentary, but she kind of had more ammo to go with because I guess she had texted Chris, and Chris was like, well, she told me she was going through for a play date. And when she shows up at the house, she sees Shanann's car is still parked there with the
car seats.
with the car seats in, and so she's like, okay, wrong. Like immediately red flag number
Clearly,
one.
she's not on a play date.
Clearly, she didn't go anywhere. And so, like, there's all of these red flags that then lead her to calling 911 and saying, there's no movement at my girlfriend's house. Her car is still here. I'm just really worried.
Oh, so and that's where you've watched. You're a true crime nut because she's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, let me run down the list of
Right.
things that make this suspicious
Oh,
for you,
yes.
officer.
Oh, and not only that, she had an appointment that morning to get an ultrasound, and she called the doctor's office and said,
And
"Hey,
asked, did she
did
come?
Shanann show up for this appointment?" She had not. So then more ammo.
And that
for
appointment
her
was
to
at
be
like 9 a.m. If she
Yeah.
was dropped off at 2 a.m.,
Yeah.
then she only has,
Right.
like
Right.
7 hours before
to
she
be
has
somewhere.
to be there.
So yeah,
Right.
you're talking short sleep, short
Right.
whatever. Yeah.
Right.
Right. So they send an officer out, and this is where we see the body cam footage of, and we actually see the very beginning of the investigation unfold. And it's super
Let's just take a moment to
interesting.
point out that when they're trying to track down the murder of a white woman, the body cam footage is flawless and
Right.
works every time. But,
yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
I'll just
there's
leave that there.
Yeah, I mean, like, of course, and like watching all of this, you see the disparities in race and how it's handled in the true crime world, and it's disgusting. I mean, it's disgusting. There's not much more we can say about that.
Yeah.
It's awful. So Nicole explains why she's worried. Officer can't enter without consent from the husband.
So and I thought that was like the cop was very straight
Mhm.
about procedure.
Yes, he
Mhm.
was.
Like, look, and he was like, lady, look, I get it. Like, yes, you called her mom and you got the garage door code. That's fine.
I can't enter the house.
You can go in. I
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
Like, I
Mhm.
just, yeah.
Yeah. So you see him talk to neighbors, and he walks around the house, and Nicole calls Shanann's mom, asking for the garage key code. And Chris had told her mother, I guess, Shanann was at a girlfriend's house for a play date also that morning. So then we see Chris roll up in his truck, hops out of the work truck. He lets everyone in the house. And then I just said, this makes me squirm because we all know this is a crime scene being rummaged through by 4 people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they don't know it at the time, but it's like...
And the other thing, too, is that her mom was saying, like, I'm giving you permission to go into that house.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. You're going to go in there. This is what
Right.
he told me. And the cop even asked, like, oh, do you have a name or, like, a phone number of the
Right.
person?
No, he didn't say. Yeah.
And he had never said. And, you know, like, how many people... could it possibly be that she would be over there? You know what I mean? Her best friend
got into
doesn't
that
know.
a little bit,
You know, like this is crazy.
So Chris comments.
Well, and so for what it's worth, at this time, he looks like
he's just coming home from work.
Well, no, because they called him and said, "Hey, we need you to, we need you here," and he's acting like he's not acting suspicious. He's not acting.
He looks kind of frantic.
Especially by the end of this, and you realize
Yeah.
what the timeline actually is. Holy shit, is he a sociopath?
I know.
For being able to pull that together that
well,
quick.
then I said, it was interesting because you see the cop go into the little girls' rooms. And you see their rooms, and all the sheets on their beds had been like pulled off, and sheets on his bed with Shanann had been pulled off. And Chris comments, all the girls' blankies are gone. And I go, chilling. So put that fact in your memory bank because we'll talk about their blankies in the end. But all of this is being shot through a body cam. And then they discover her phone. And you can see her girlfriend, Nicole, is starting to... Then she's like...
At that moment, she goes, that's her phone?
She's
oh, my
like,
God.
That's her
that's her lifeline. Yep.
Like,
and
there's
that
no way.
that was the one thing. As soon as he said, this is her lifeline, it really, like, I was like... chills went down my spine because I was just like, you have no idea how much that actually is like a true fucking statement.
Well, you can definitely see the panic on Nicole's face. Like, what the fuck?
Well, and it's I'm trying to I'm pretty sure it was right then when like you can hear I can't remember if it was one of the officers or like or if this is one of the crime scene investigators later who says, wow, yeah, this house is like ridiculously clean.
Oh yeah, that's later when they bring in the dogs for the scent. But so they go through her phone and Chris sent a text at 7:40. If you take the kids somewhere, please let me know where they are at. And I was just like, that's a weird text to send. Like,
yeah,
like it's just like between a husband and a wife. Like she works from home. She's a stay-at-home mom. That's a weird.
I would have been more like,
that's just a weird.
Where are you and where are my children?
So you can you can see.
Well, but at 7:40 in the morning,
he's starting to cover his tracks. Yeah, exactly right.
And it's like if you take them somewhere, that's super suspicious though. Like I wouldn't be like if you take them somewhere. You know, it's like usually relationships are in such a way that it's like, hey babe, I'm about to take the kids to blah, blah, blah.
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
But it could also be like the night before. They had a conversation. Hey, I might go somewhere. I might not. I don't know yet.
Right.
So like the next, hey, if you decide you're taking them, just let me know so I know what's going on.
Right. So they continue to go through his phone. They see another friend had texted her, no response. 12 p.m. Chris says, can you call me, please? And then he keeps texting, call me. And then Nicole discovers her purse and medication in the kitchen, and you see the visible, oh shit, what the fuck look on her face, because what we find out is Shanann has lupus, and basically she would never like just leave her medication somewhere. Like she had medication she had to take. Like if she was going somewhere, if she was leaving, like she would have taken her purse, she would have taken her phone, she would have had her medicine.
Here's the thing is that is like a common thing, and actually there was a girl relatively recently in Farmington that had gone missing.
Oh yeah.
And that was a thing that they found was her purse and her phone and her keys and all this stuff. Nothing was like disturbed. And it's like I feel like,
are you talking about Danny?
Yeah, I'm talking about Danny and justice for Danny, by the way.
Yeah.
And we should find out where she's at. But the thing is that it's like when you see this stuff, you know, like you can't tell me that this guy has never watched a crime show ever in his life. and didn't go like, oh, I'm gonna go murder my family, so let me at least like make it look like this bitch left.
But like we could,
you know what I mean?
we could
like,
talk all day about the stupidity of criminals. Like, I
And
mean,
he's
they're fucking dumb. That's
he-
why they get caught.
the
Like, they're
entire thing
dumb.
is stupid. The entire thing is like him trying to cover up in general.
So after Nicole tells officers about her lupus, then it cuts to a live video of Shanann. She's talking about how she was previously married. She was in a bad marriage. And then it goes through and kind of shows like how Shanann rebuilt her life. After that, she said she worked her ass off basically. She built her own home. She totally bounced back from this really bad first marriage. Then she found out she was sick with lupus. And she explains then at that same time that then she met Chris.
This part actually made me laugh as I was watching. Both times it made me laugh. Where, so she talks about, oh, I had a lot of basement friends, which, okay, they're people on Facebook, but you don't ever actually meet them in real life. And she was like, oh, she's like, I gave him an out every day. She's like, he came to my colonoscopy with me, and I'm like, oh, like, dude, either you were really, really into her, or like just there's something really, really wrong with you. One of the two.
Into you, like maybe like you're. We'll talk more about Chris.
It's so sad
like
because
love and like how he perceives love.
Yeah,
because
we'll talk more about
It seems like
that.
he's very I don't even know how to put it, like out of tune with like how to act like when he's in love. Or
this
like,
girl was definitely very smart
Mhm.
and very well to do for herself. She had obviously worked very hard to get to where she was.
Mhm.
And then he steps in, and it
Mhm.
seems like a storybook.
yeah, it
You
does.
know, like they show
Yeah.
some like videos of like their wedding, and you can just tell how in love she is.
And how in love he
and,
is.
and yeah, absolutely.
And it kind of just like it goes to show like back to like Dave's point about him being there with the colonoscopy. That proved to her like, all right, this is a dude that's gonna stand by me through thick and thin.
Right.
And
Or
that's why
just really into things going into my butt. I mean, it could have gone
which
either
we'll
way.
talk about that with his girlfriend.
yeah, we'll talk about that with his girlfriend for sure.
So then the officer is asking about the medications, like will she have a seizure without them, whatever. And then Chris explains how she takes migraine medication, talks about her recent traveling, knowing how this turns out, and rewatching Chris is a classic. He's talking way too
And
much
he
and
even
giving
says-
way too
He even
many
says that
details.
she's been taking more of her medication than she ever has
It's
before.
not a normal interaction, but again, hindsight's 2020. But like as I was watching this, I'm like, dude is talking way
But here's the
too
thing
much.
is
like,
that-
he's just giving way too many specific details where you're like, that is not pertinent to what's going on.
Okay, but you have to
like
also
unless
understand.
you have like vomit of the mouth.
Even the police officer says at one point, and we'll get to that again, but even the police officer says at one point, like, you have to imagine how he's feeling if he's frantic. Like when I'm feeling frantic, I tend to just kind of overtalk. Exactly. Like I'll talk, I talk.
guess. I don't
And
know.
I'm just saying that,
I
think
get
that
it.
people are giving him the benefit of the doubt at this point because they're like,
Absolutely. And,
he's
you know,
concerned.
and I'm
Well,
always
and he's saying and doing what appear to be the right thing.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
I'm
he's trying to
always-
contact her.
like I said, hindsight's 2020, but I'm always one to say in like these murders when they're like, oh, he was acting really weird, he was acting suspicious. I'm like, who writes the playbook on how to act when your wife goes missing?
Right.
You
Right.
know, like, okay, so I will throw the guy a bone here. But like I said, looking back, now you're like, okay, he's giving way too much.
But see, to me,
Like,
suspicious would be shutting down.
I feel
Would be
yeah.
not talking. Would be withdrawing.
I
would
feel
be
like
not,
to
knowing-
me, but that's how I would react.
I feel like knowing but you
I
don't-
would shut
but
down.
you exactly. And here's the thing is that like
Because I get depressed and I get
knowing what-
anxiety, and that's what my anxiety
knowing
does.
what you know now
Yeah.
helps you to be like,
Right.
okay, this guy was acting
Yeah.
suspicious. Had I been in that
Right.
moment, I would have been like, oh, he's worried, he's frantic,
Right.
he's trying to come up with scenarios of why this would happen and how it would happen, or
Right.
what, trying to come up with like her leaving him,
Right.
or I mean, like, and I
don't
think
know.
that just knowing that we already knew at the end of it that this was the case is like,
if this ever happens to you, just don't throw out make-believe scenarios and Like, I just
And that's the thing is,
ask
like,
for a
you were
lawyer
saying,
immediately.
you were saying,
Just shut the fuck up.
you were
just
saying,
stop talking.
you were
You talk
saying
way
that
too much.
if this happened to me, this is how I would react.
Yeah.
And I can't say how I would react because my anxiety has two very different highs.
Yeah.
And one of them is that I shut down completely, or the other is that I just talk and talk and talk, and I
Right.
try and talk myself through it
Right.
by pretending to be normal.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know how I would react if that was in that situation.
So the next thing is he says he's an oil and gas operator, and then they find his wedding ring, or her wedding ring. I'm sorry, on the nightstand, and then cut to Shanann, a live video of her explaining how her and Chris met and the
Was it-
beginning of their relationship.
I just gotta ask, like, how many people do you know that really like document their lives this much on Facebook Live?
Well, okay, so
Like-
here's the thing: is she and this is okay. So she was an MLM salesperson,
Okay.
and so
so that was the
like,
work from home
Yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
so
Okay.
that was the work from home. She did
I
like
say, yeah, because I don't think they ever
she
really got
did,
into that
like-
into the special.
she did like health patches, which are supposed to
like the level,
Oh,
the
the-
level
Thrive.
or the
Gotcha,
Thrive
yeah.
stuff. And so knowing that, and she was very successful with it. She got a Lexus from the company because she made so many sales.
a lot of those girls
So
go.
knowing that, part of that job is documenting every part of your life because you are trying.
So that makes more sense to me.
You
That-
are
okay.
trying to make those personal
Oh yeah,
relationships.
no, that
and
so that
engage
makes perfect
them
sense to me now.
and show, okay, this is how amazing my life
Yeah,
is.
but like I said, I don't think they ever touched on that
Because
in
of
this
Thrive.
Netflix
They do
documentary.
very, very well. They did for a second because the police officer asked, "Where does she work?" And he said, "Oh, she works
Works at
for
home.
Level and doing Thrive."
Right.
And they don't really like
But
touch
they
down
don't go into how
they don't
much of
touch-
an MLM
Gotcha.
They don't
that
touch
is.
down on it very often or
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah.
But anybody, like especially women, and I'm just generalizing.
See,
but
I must have
especially
totally missed
women,
that both times because if I would have heard Thrive, I would have
Like,
got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thrive, it works.
No, I think it was-
unique.
Yeah. I
These
think
are
it was
all
Level.
things. It was Thrive, but
Oh.
Level is part of Thrive.
okay.
So, and because I remember him saying
Yeah.
Thrive at one point, but
Okay.
the whole entire thing is that, especially for women, just because they're usually marketed towards women like LuLaRoe and things like that,
Yeah.
these are like the multi-level
Yeah.
marketing, and
That's how
a
they make
lot
their sales.
because listen, I actually did one of these at one point. I fell into it and I did Unique for a second. And the girl that was like my mentor for it was telling me, like, you have to make a Facebook
Online
page.
presence
You have to make a Facebook
is huge.
Facebook specifically for this.
Mhm.
You have to go live all the time. You have to be constantly posting pictures. Make a portfolio. Have all these people constantly interacting with your stuff, because the more interaction you get, then obviously Facebook has their algorithm
Right.
where it like pushes
Right.
to other people. And I mean, how many times have you been scrolling through Facebook and you see those fucking
And I'm
the
alone.
pearl opening things, or you
Right.
know what I mean, like these things, and I'll click on it and it'll be thousands of people watching one show. Just one. I'm gonna take your gift and open it for you,
Right.
and then show it to you
Yeah.
on screen. You know what I mean? Like, so this is the type of thing that she's doing,
Yeah.
and a lot of people fall into that, and that's what they do, is make their life super well known.
So yeah, Dave. I mean, it seems odd that like her life is so well documented, but it was
Well, but like I
just
said, yeah, with that in mind, I totally
part
get
of
it.
the
Yeah.
job. Okay, so she cut to a live video of Shanann explaining how her and Chris met and the beginning of their relationship. It was showing clips of their wedding day. She was talking about how Chris is the best.
He's an amazing father.
Her family speeches at their wedding, her family was all like her brother, her dad, her mom
yeah.
were all saying, I could not have picked a better man for my sister, for my daughter.
I think her brother even says, "I wanted a brother and I couldn't have
Yeah.
had a better one."
And she says over and over in this thing, he is the best thing that has ever happened to me. Next, you hear the officer say, definitely an odd one. And I wrote, is he talking about Chris or is he talking about the situation? Because I'm like, that's just an interesting little tidbit. Like, did the officer have any clue? So Chris is offering then to the officer Listen, I can drive around and look for her. And I wrote, this is again odd to me. He suggests going her normal route, and he's explaining going to school or going to her friends. And the officer was like, well, doesn't she work from home? So she wouldn't have a normal route per se. So this is
There's
weird.
not something that she does in particular.
Right. And so the next thing we see is the neighbor has a camera pointed on the street. And they go into the neighbor's house, and they're watching the footage of this camera that was pointed at the street.
Yeah, the ring cam. Yep.
Chris is standing there, and he's watching. And I wrote, he has to be shitting his pants. And he puts his hands like over his head, like he's fidgeting.
Yeah, he does
he's
like this kind of thing.
Yeah,
where
like he's like going like
thinking,
this, and
covering
like
his,
and he's like, you can just tell he's fucking freaking
Now,
out.
this is the moment where I would say that I agree with you that he started having word vomit.
Okay, so he explains they were having trouble with people breaking into cars, and Chris blurts out, she's pregnant as well, 14 or 15 weeks. Like, just randomly, like, blurts it out as they're watching this video.
Look, Elvis.
Yeah, it's like, it's just so fucking weird. And so then it cuts to another live video of Shanann, and she's surprising Chris with the news that she's pregnant again. And it seems so normal and happy, and as an outsider looking in, you'd have no idea, like,
Whether or not he's...
right, how it's going to all unfold. Then you see her tell her girls, and they have little pigtails in their hair, and they're drinking chocolate milk out of, like, these crazy straws. You're going to have another little brother, and they're just, like, so sweet and so cute, and it's just, like, this really cute interaction. So Shanann explains she was told she couldn't have kids because of the lupus, and she talks about Cece saying she gives a little information about her girls. She says Cece just doesn't stop. Bella is starting to talk about what she wants to be in life, and she wants to be Elsa when she grows up. And then we cut back to that scene of Chris at the neighbor's, and the neighbor tells the officer when Chris leaves, he is not acting right at all. Mm-hmm. He's never fidgety. And Chris, he has it on video of Chris loading stuff in and out of the garage. And the neighbor explains that this is not normal behavior. And he said Chris is normally quiet and subdued and not Mr. Talkative. Again, all hearsay, but very damning. And the officer is like, well, anyone can be nervous in this kind of situation, kind of dismisses it. Which, I mean, like, as this is all unfolding, I guess you kind of have to.
Well, while this entire thing is happening, when he's watching this video of him loading something into his car, and the perspective of it is very skewed. You can only see him kind of in the back corner. Yeah. You see him back his car in. Yeah. You see him loading something, but you can't really tell what it is. But he is moving, like, not very frantically. He's very calm. He's collected.
And something Bailey Sarian pointed out, too, is he made 3 trips.
Yes, he made 3 trips,
which is like
in and out. But the thing is, though, is that while he's talking to his neighbor, or while the police officer is talking to his neighbor, and he's watching this, like you said, he was like kind of fidgety and like moving around a lot. But it almost seemed like he was just immediately like, "Well, this is what I was doing. Nobody asked." What were you doing? Why did you move your car that way? Like, what were you loading in there? He immediately offers that information.
So I guess here's the counterpoint to that.
Devil's advocate?
We all, not even devil's advocate, like we all know it's immediately the husband.
Oh, yeah.
Always.
So in any situation like this,
so
it is
he's
always the husband.
Already nervous.
He's already, okay,
they're going to automatically assume me first.
Even though I did it, I have to pretend like I didn't do it.
Had he not, though,
he probably
still would have been reacting the same way.
Because, I mean, that's the, because you're under the microscope, and it's always the spouse, and
First.
Yep.
First and foremost, it's the spouse.
Okay, so August 14th, this is the second day missing. Officer calls Chris to ask his specifics about his daughters. He's asking height, weight, color of eyes, color of hair. And they're showing this in juxtaposition. So they're, like, playing the recording of the officer asking him these specifics, but they're showing, like, these sweet little pictures of his daughters alive. And it's just, like...
So, and honestly, like, this is where it got, like...
It takes your breath away.
If you asked me, like, I couldn't tell you that my daughter is 47 inches high, and
that was weird to me
and my
too.
son, and my
But
other daughter is
when you're
32
that
inches high.
little, I feel like they're going through to doctor's appointments more often, and like they're doing like I don't know, like and he's probably just making like generalized.
I get it.
guess, but
Maybe.
I don't know. For me, it was the juxtaposition of him telling the officer this and showing these pictures and knowing what he had done to them. Then a family photo with him talking in the background to the officer, knowing he has annihilated his entire family. Officers record themselves going door to door, hanging missing persons posters and talking to neighbors. And one neighbor mentions a truck that she hadn't seen before, seal gray.
That she thought
parked out
that's why they were
front,
there.
Late afternoon.
Right, was because they saw this weird truck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know,
and it
then-
was his work truck.
Well,
right?
So, as it turns out, yes.
Yes.
But it was
she makes it a point to say that
It was-
it was a much
Right.
smaller.
that it was not his truck because
Right.
because he has his big truck that's
Mhm.
and she's like, but this was much smaller. Yeah.
She even says the dad has a big truck,
Yeah.
but this one was smaller.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like telling that like the girl was like, I kind of thought it was the dad, but then maybe it wasn't.
Oh, yeah, because it wasn't the
you
same.
know
Yeah.
what I mean? And there's no way it could be him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
So this is the part where officers come in and they ask everyone to leave the Watts' house because they're going to have a dog come in and get the scent. And meanwhile, while everyone leaves, Chris is out front on the porch doing media interviews.
See, and here's the thing. Like, I'm not a CSI guy. I'm not like I am not a crime scene investigator.
Yeah.
But,
You aren't?
But,
wait, what?
but why
wait,
why
I
would
have to leave.
you? I don't understand why they would bring the dogs to the house to get her scent when you've had all the cops, all the the girlfriend, the
Sure, there's people in and out of
traipsing
there.
through it. That
Yeah.
does it like it would make more sense to me that you would bring clothing
Yeah.
or something of hers
Out.
of the
Outside,
house.
Yes.
Right.
Where it's more new, like the dogs understand
I
air.
also thought
like
that,
I just
but
thought
then
that
I
was
was like,
weird.
maybe I just don't know.
So,
You know
yeah,
what
that's
I
why
mean?
it's like,
That's like how I felt.
yeah,
I
like,
was
I'm-
like,
Very
maybe I'm
weird.
just
I'm
not
not a
aware
cop,
of how that
but yeah.
works. But
Um,
if I was going to have like a dog do like a scent or something, I wouldn't bring them into my house. I would bring
There's
something
too many
out.
scents.
Now, see, my
Right,
only
right.
the only like my little click was did
maybe
they just
it was
not
a cadaver
did they
dog.
just not tell him it was a cadaver,
Cadaver,
dog?
yeah.
And
Right,
they
right.
brought it in trying to smell decomposing
For
remains.
decomposing,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense though. I
So,
didn't even think about that.
Chris is doing these TV interviews out front, and I just wrote, I hate these. And come to find out too, this was something we heard from Bailey Sirian, was that Shanann's mom actually told Chris, do not do the TV interview. Like, it's never going to go well for
It's
the
damning
husband.
usually.
Just freaking don't do it. And he
Dear Prince Andrew.
right, right. It's like it's never gonna make you look good, dude. Like, just shut up. So, in this, he's saying if
But he-
someone has them, they're not safe. I want them back now.
Well, but again, if you don't do it, does that then make you look guilty?
Absolutely.
So that's
absolutely.
You know, it's
You're
like
damned
yeah,
if
it's
you
a
do,
give,
damned
yeah,
if
it's
you
a give or
don't.
take.
Absolutely.
And the other thing too about him doing that interview, it seemed like there was a couple of times where I was like, he's smiling, like it seems like he's like totally just like nonchalant, like, and he says. I'm not going to say whether
Yeah.
or not she was like just left on her own accord, but if somebody has her and she's not safe, then I want her back
Well,
now.
then he also admits in front of the media, we had an emotional conversation the night before, but he didn't want to get into
But
it.
okay, but this
And I'm
is-
like, this is the first hint that something was wrong in the relationship. This is nothing he said to the
Nope.
cops. This is something
Well,
he just blurted out.
But in
Nope.
hindsight, was
Yep.
it the first thing? Because let's go back to those wedding videos.
Exactly.
You saw her family.
Yeah, but
You didn't see
right.
his family.
Oh, well,
Okay.
But assuming that they had not seen
on
those
top
yet,
of that,
so-
during like the time where they were in there looking through the house and everything, he comes out holding her wedding ring, and he's already putting together that idea that she
She
has
left.
She
decided
left.
that she
Yep.
is
Left.
done
Yeah.
and has left. So him going out there and saying that makes it like solidifies for some people that okay, we had this emotional conversation. She was hurt. She was upset. I was upset. She grabbed the kids and left.
Without her car.
Without
Right.
her car. And without
Right.
her phone, and without her
without her
medication, and without her
purse.
purse.
And there's no ATM withdrawals.
And no
because it's 2018,
No car seats,
Chris,
Right.
and
like
we know that
nothing.
we have access to all of that, and we're gonna look into all of that. Like, you're just so fucking dumb. So,
And
anyways,
where's her phone pinging up of
Chris
it?
comes into the station that day for a police interview, and he explains the problems they've been having. Shanann was in North Carolina visiting family, and he says they needed time apart. He says he was emotional, but he is not emotional at all in the interview.
Well, okay, so I don't think he said they needed time apart. I think if I recall the quote correctly, he said you learn the most about someone when
Okay.
you're apart.
Okay. Semantics there.
Right.
but
Well,
okay.
no, because
Just
there's a difference
No,
between
yeah,
because
no, I get what you're
it's not something he said to her. That's how he was because basically what he was telling the cop is while we were apart, we kind of learned that maybe things weren't so great. So again, he's
Well-
still laying that foundation.
Absolutely. So something that we don't see in the documentary, but that is in his like courtroom sealed documents, is that he had told Shanann July 15th, I don't want to be in this marriage anymore. And she says, okay, well, how about couples therapy? And he goes, no, I don't want to do couples
Not
therapy.
interested.
I'm not interested. And so that's all left out of the documentary, but it's like
So again, as a guy,
Yeah.
who's been divorced, who went to couples therapy, it's bullshit. So
sure. Oh, come on, it works for a lot of
okay,
people.
but here's as long as you're both committed, because here's the thing: the first 3 sessions were all about me and what I was doing wrong and how much I sucked, and then the very
maybe
session.
you did suck.
So no,
Dave.
but then clearly, but then
Clearly.
but then session number 4 became about her, and we never went again.
Right.
Mm.
And as soon as it flips, suddenly there's no more.
Okay, but Dave, I'm not gonna put it out there to our viewers that therapy is bullshit. Like, I mean, come on.
Oh
Like,
no,
No,
no.
I don't
It
think
is
anyone's saying that
very-
therapy is bullshit.
it
I think that well,
works.
No, but
and
he's-
maybe
No.
you just had a shitty
But
therapist.
no,
No, that was
but-
that
nope.
was the ex-wife.
But
That was the
that's-
problem.
but
with the thing. No, because
that's-
like I said, because it was once that switched, she wanted nothing
so
to do
you
with it
make
anymore.
poor decisions.
But that's
Have you met me?
But
True
that's
that.
part of what Dave was saying, though, is that, the first couple of sessions that they have were like about him and what he's doing wrong. And as soon as that light is being shined on somebody else, suddenly it's no longer an issue and we don't need to go. And Lindsay, I've talked to you about how I went to therapy for a while, and as soon
I
as
go to therapy.
that's fine. You go to therapy for yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
For
So there's
yourself.
a difference between
And
going to see a
when
therapist
you go to
and couples
therapy for other people and yourself,
Mm-hmm.
I went to therapy, things were fine. As soon as they were like, we want to talk to your parents, and my parents went in, suddenly I wasn't in therapy anymore.
Well, there has to be.
So-
Well, yeah, no, and Lauren, I get that, but there has to be.
Well, so anyway, my whole point with that was that so you have to because and you don't have this. The stereotypical guy point of view is couples therapy is not going to do anything. It's not going to be good. Everything I've ever heard from the boys is what's bullshit it is. Da, 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 da. And so and plus knowing what we know now, why would he want to even try the facade of counseling when he's got thing 2?
And I
Right.
may agree with that. Had they not shown in the documentary him giving a presentation about relationships dissolving and how to fix them.
just because you do
and,
a
like, all this
presentation
other
doesn't mean
shit.
you
Oh,
actually follow
no,
any of that
no,
stuff.
Yeah.
No. I'm sorry. You got how to fix them out of that?
Well, that's what he was saying.
No, because
It
he
was
said
a deteriorating
he
relationship.
said there are 3 things you have to figure out. Do you want to still be in the relationship? Do you have an obligation to still be in the relationship? Do you have a requirement to still be in the relationship? There's nothing there that says fixing the relationship. It's do you have to be here, and if not, how do you GTFO?
Right.
I don't think that's what his like. I know that's what he was talking about, but I don't think that was his overall message to the people that were coming.
Oh,
I think
probably because he was doing
his
he
message
was
was like, okay, like fixing a relationship.
Well, yeah, because his whole thing was,
Right.
a requirement
Right.
could be kids, or,
Right.
and you have to stay for the
Right.
kids, or,
Right.
an obligation
Right.
because, hey, you're married and there's this
Right.
whole religious thing and yada,
Right.
yada, yada.
Absolutely.
Hey, there's this, and it's, so yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, I just think it goes to show that, like, he was just far past and over the relationship at that point, like, that he wasn't even willing to, like,
Well, yeah, again.
give it, like, the last ditch effort.
Because as we learn, there's thing two.
Right, exactly. Okay, so, so in that interview, he says, he starts coming up with excuses. Maybe I caused her to leave. And then,
Well, and they ask.
yeah.
They ask if he's seeing anyone. Is she seeing anyone? Do you know of anything?
And he says no and no.
And he's like, nope,
No
not
and
at all,
no.
nope. And he's like, and I think he even made it a point, like, and if she was,
it was
it
so
was
discreet.
super secret.
Yeah.
I never had an inkling.
Yeah.
But again, he's saying the right things. It's
Yeah.
never say never.
Right.
It's hey,
Right.
maybe that's who
Right.
came and picked her and
Right.
the kids up.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
I mean, he's trying to say the right things. He's still a dumbass. But 7 weeks earlier, 7 weeks earlier, we see Shanann's. She made an album on Facebook, and it's like "Trip to North Carolina Begins." And from Shanann's Facebook album, you see these little tiny girls with these big red backpacks, and they're going through the airport, and it's just like so sweet to see those kids, and then just all that more heartbreaking.
Well, and she's and she even says hey we're going away for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
He's got to work. He can't travel like that. Yada yada.
Yeah, her parents and family are all back in North Carolina. So
As
that's
are
like
his.
that's her. Yeah, that's their home base. So she documents the entire trip, like all of her life, and you see how loved these little girls are, and just obviously the love of grandparents, and it just like guts you even more, like just seeing like just the innocence.
Especially
and,
as
like,
the
they're,
Jaws
like,
theme is playing in the
they're
background.
like splashing through puddles
Yeah.
together, like holding Grammy's hand.
Oh, yeah, they're
and
adorbs.
like they're so. It's just. I just feel like the producer, the director of this documentary, just did like a fantastic job at just like pulling at your heartstrings and being like, this guy is a fucking monster. I mean, like, not that we needed any more additional information, but I mean, like,
we're gonna go ahead and put those cards out there
right?
anyway,
But we're gonna really like stick it to him right now. So, officers interview Nicole, her murderino friend, the one that like first mentioned or first like had some clue, and she said, the second or third week she was in North Carolina, Shanann got into a fight with Chris's mom. And Chris's mom was disregarding one of their daughter, Cece's, food allergies, and Shanann was very stern about that.
Oh, so and that was one of the very first videos they showed back at the beginning of this, was like, oh my God, I love to bake and cook and yada yada, but this little one
can't eat
is
any of
allergic
it.
to everything we love, like pistachio cookies and yada yada.
Yeah. And so she texts Chris and asks Chris, hey, can you please like talk to your parents and tell them like this wasn't cool and we don't appreciate it, and like Cece has these really like concerning food allergies, and Chris agrees. And he's like, it's not cool.
Her verbiage was a little more stern than that.
Okay,
let's be clear.
All right. And I completely agree, but I am like not like here to like victim blame. Like, I get being a bossy bitch. Like, I am that bossy bitch. Do you know what I mean? Like, fuck off. Like, this is the woman you married. I am stern. I'm bossy, and like
not blaming by any stretch of the imagination.
Like, if it was a man, if the roles were reversed, like, would we be even saying anything about her sternness? Would we be saying anything about her? Anything about her bossiness, like, fuck off.
No, but that is one of the threads that comes up later, where even she says, basically, she was emasculating him without even knowing it. That she was, basically controlling him without even who, Chris? Okay, but to a guy that, again, not making excuses for it. I'm just saying that can be a very heavy emotional thing for a dude.
For her to be like, hey, reach out to your parents and say,
I believe
this
it was
isn't fucking cool.
Find your balls and tell your parents we're not putting up with this and they're not welcome in our house again. That's a punch to the nose to a guy. It is. Again, not justifying, not
so
excusing.
fucking sensitive, dude. He's so fucking sensitive. Like, seriously, you think women are emotional and sensitive? Like, get the fuck over
no,
it.
there is nothing more fragile than a male ego.
Like,
you know that, I know that.
Like, dude, I cannot. Like, dude, you're too sensitive. I can't. Like, get over it. I can't.
Especially
like, it's your daughter. It's her family. Buck up.
Especially
I don't care.
the white male ego. Let's be clear.
Yeah. White male ego is the most fucking fragile thing of all time. So, anyways, side note, before she had left for this trip to North Carolina, this wasn't in the documentary, but it was in the released official court documents that neighbors were called her hearing screaming and yelling from the home the night before she had left. So it wasn't all this is okay, this is what we're doing.
It wasn't all rainbows and sunshine.
Right. It wasn't all rainbows and sunshine. So Chris's best friend corroborates this story from Nicole, but says Shanann yelled at Cindy, who is Chris's mom, and that it was a huge argument that resulted in Shanann being kicked out of the house with her girls. They went back to Shanann's parents' house in North Carolina. They celebrated Cece's birthday there, and Chris's parents didn't come. She communicated she never wanted to see them again. This hurt Chris. All of this could have been hyperbole, obviously. We all get in arguments and fights and say things we don't mean.
Yep.
So,
I have no idea what that's like.
Yeah, right.
I've never had that happen.
Never
once.
happens. Never. So 5 weeks earlier, we see Shanann Shanann's trying to FaceTime Chris. He missed the calls. He texts her and apologizes. She texts and is having none of it. Calls him out and says, "You have not called one time since we've been here in North Carolina." And he apologizes and says he's a jackass. She's like, "You think you'd miss us?" And he says he does.
And he misses them tons.
In the meantime, Shanann's telling her friend Nicole that things between them are bad. She said the only time it was ever bad was right after her wedding because Chris's parents didn't go to the wedding. And this is where this kind of all unfolds.
Chung chung.
Dun, dun, dun. Nicole explains Shanann was kind of bossy, but good bossy. Chris explains his mom and sister didn't like Shanann because they felt she had taken Chris away from them. Shanann does identify herself as the dominant one in the relationship.
Okay,
saying
so
Chris is very sweet and calm. And then there's this weird live stream of him dressing up as Santa, and you can see her lack of patience with him in like this one particular clip. But like what I wrote is like, this is just like one, like this is a microcosm, like, you know what I mean? Like this is not indicative of their entire relationship.
But you don't know that.
Like, no, you don't. But what I'm saying, exactly. So you could say either way. You could say this is how she is all the time.
Or, hey, that one.
Or there was this one instance where she was frustrated with her husband. So that it tells you nothing. It tells you nothing. I mean, it does show her frustrations with her husband, but like it could go either way.
Yeah.
You know. So in the police interview, Chris said he had no inkling of her having an affair, and the officer remarks that Chris looks fit. He lost a bunch of weight, and the officer says,
"Oh, because he said, yeah, I've got this photo of you, from a couple years ago,
You're
and he's
245
like,
pounds,
and he says, I'm looking at you now, and
he's 180.
He's like, oh yeah, I was 245. He's like, I'm down to like 180, 185, and it again stereotypical. I mean, the cop's like, hey. You understand that most times a guy goes through that kind of change, it's because of a girl.
Right.
You got a girl in your life we should know about.
So that's what he says. And a girl didn't inspire this. Yeah. And Chris is adamant he did not cheat on his wife. And then this is the part.
Have sexual relations with that woman.
But then this is the part where you get that footage of Chris doing that relationship presentation. It was actually a presentation. This is the name of the presentation: Relationship Repair. So he's talking about in this presentation affairs and the obligation to stay in a marriage and all that. But the name of the presentation, Dave.
Well, and like I said,
relationship repair.
Well, but like I said,
Fight me.
But no, but I think the point of that is if you get through, if one of those three things is true, then repair your relationship. If you don't feel the need to stay, if you don't feel an obligation to stay, and you don't have a requirement to stay,
I mean,
why repair it?
I understand that.
So, yeah.
I get that, but I'm saying he's a douchebag. And we'll keep going. Okay, so third day missing. This is polygraph test. Shit gets real. He hates I hate polygraphs. Obviously, they're bullshit, but they do make people sweat. And that's what I like about them. So they show this in conjunction with her family pleading for their return on news media outlets. And so in the polygraph, he never implicates himself. Like he's saying all the things he should.
Well, and she has to stop at one point and basically tell him, hey, look, I need your breathing to be normal.
Weird.
Well,
yeah.
but again, he's like,
he's
hey,
like, I don't know how to breathe.
He's like, I'm nervous as shit. He's like, he's like, and I know I can. He's like, all of a sudden I realize I've been holding my breath, and so I take a deep breath, and then I hyperventilated. But he's like, I get it. Like he's like, I've never done, and he's like, I've never done this before. She's like, well, most people have never done this before, so I get it.
Right.
But we just got to get through this.
And just worthy to note at this point, these are 2 FBI agents.
Yes.
Okay. So it doesn't show us the results of this test
which
yet.
I thought was weird that they don't, like in the documentary, they refer to themselves as from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation.
Well, yeah.
Not the Colorado office of the Federal Bureau of Investigation or the FBI, but the it
but
sounded
you know
like
what?
is there this separate department we don't know about?
No. But Dave, like if you look at Georgia, they refer to the GBI. Georgia Bureau of Investigation.
Like I said,
it's the same though.
Yeah.
But like they are FBI, but they refer to themselves as GBI.
Yeah, I just thought it was weird.
So they don't show exactly that the results just yet, and it goes back to the North Carolina trip. Chris is explaining what he was doing while they were gone, going to work and working out, and Shanann texts and says basically this trip made her realize that their relationship is one-sided and asked Chris to meet her halfway. And Chris is always agreeing with her. Like, he is just always like, yes, like, I was a jackass. I was doing all this. Like, he's just always constantly, like, agreeing with whatever she says. And then there was that, oh, my God, this fucking gutted me. Bella singing that song, My Daddy is a Hero. He helps me grow up strong. And then she just, like, keeps singing the song, and it's just like, oh, my God, just knowing, like, in a few days he's going to fucking murder her. So Chris flies out to...
Again, Jaws theme in the background.
Right, exactly. So Chris flies out to North Carolina to meet them for a week. Live video of the girls meeting him at the airport. They're so happy to see him. Live video of their vacations. Keeping in mind, this is all just weeks before he murders them all. Shanann texts her friend about how Chris is physically distant. There's no kissing, no PDA. After 5 weeks of not seeing each other, she says she wants to cry. She wants sex one night. But instead he's doing like a push-up challenge. And she says it's been 5.5 weeks without sex unless he's getting it somewhere else. And that's what she said to her friend. So she definitely has inklings that he's getting it.
Oh, yeah.
Getting it from somewhere else. So back to the police interview.
Well, but that, again, I guess, taking the counterpoint, she's just had this blow up with his family, pissed off his mom and dad. God knows what conversations he's had with his mom and dad at this point. And so, yeah, maybe he's a little torqued off with her and not really feeling very lovey-dovey about,
You've been gone for 5 weeks.
Right.
Like,
so
that's...
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah. And like, she's pregnant on top of it all. So she's extra feeling those feelings, like, she just wants some love from her husband. Like, she wants to feel that closeness. They're having a baby together. So, back to that police interview, it was determined he was lying on the polygraph. They are now getting pushy. Like, okay, it's time to talk.
So, but again, and this is where I hate polygraphs because they're so stupid. Like,
I do too, but I understand them as a tool in an interrogation technique. Like,
yeah,
it does get them sweating. Where they like the FBI agents could then come in and be like, okay, it was shown that you were deceitful. Dude never asked for a lawyer. Dude never, like, he's a fucking idiot.
Well, again, once you ask for a lawyer, then you look guilty.
But it doesn't matter. Like, I'm sorry, if I was ever in that position,
Perception
guess
versus
what?
reality.
I'm never saying a single word. I'm getting a lawyer in here immediately. I don't care how that makes me look in media. Like, I'm smart. I'm not saying shit.
No,
I'm not saying shit.
You're perfectly logical.
Always get a fucking lawyer, dudes. You're an idiot if you don't. So anyways, so the interviewers are trying to like be like, all right, it's time to talk. Like, it's time to tell us what's fucking real. So a few videos and footage of the girls leading up to August 13th. She's still texting friends about how something has changed. She texts that Chris rejected her for sex. She confronted him about who he's sleeping with. Shanann blames this on the blow up she had with Chris's parents. So she's already like, she knows. She's like, I emasculated him. Like, I'm probably to blame for like this blow up we're having between the two, not for her own death.
Well, yeah, no.
So, cut to Nicole Kessinger. Dun, dun, dun.
Chung, chung.
This is the girlfriend.
And the cops have talked to his boss and said, hey, is there anything going on at work? Does he have a girlfriend? Yada yada yada. And the boss is like, nope. He's like, I've never seen anything. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, well, do you have any concerns about him? And the boss was like, really, only what he's going through right now.
Right.
Like, he seems like a pretty stand-up guy. So, I mean, like, this guy had a face on, to a lot of different people. And then we're about to find out just how much of a face he had on.
Right. So, Nicole Kessinger is his girlfriend who they work together. And then the first thing you hear her say to the police officers were, he has no idea that I'm talking to you guys, right? She explains she met Chris at work. He told her he was separating from his wife. Their relationship started. And then you see the live videos of her like thanking Chris and saying like how much he means to her. And she explains she found out through the media that Shanann was 15 weeks pregnant.
Well, yeah, because he had said, hey, I have 2 daughters.
Yeah.
And I'm getting ready to start the process of separation. Like, and so she was like, oh, okay, cool. Let's do that thing.
In this interview, she explains how concerned she is. However, I want to talk about a side note. In court documents, there's a lot more to this relationship with Nicole. She's not such an innocent bystander that she appears to be in this documentary. He was out with Nicole during Shanann's whole trip to North Carolina. Yep. They got her like access to her phone and found out she was Google searching a lot of things like man you're with says he will leave his wife. And then on August 4th, she was Googling wedding dresses and searching for Shanann. She wanted to get a little info on Shanann. And she also Googled marrying your mistress. And then later, after all of this broke in the media, she was Googling Amber Fry. And she Googled how much did Amber Fry make from the book deal?
So, for those of you not familiar, Amber Fry was the girlfriend of Scott Peterson.
Yeah.
Who was
who didn't do it.
Whose wife was like 8.5, 9 months pregnant.
Yeah, Lacey.
Yep, Lacey Peterson. When she was killed.
Yeah. And then she also Google searched, do people hate Amber Fry? Also, to tie all this back in, we see her willingly sit down with investigators, but I guess she wasn't so willing up until the point that she found out that one of her coworkers had like a string of emails between her and Chris that they were like handing over to investigators. And then at that point, she decided, okay, I need to talk to investigators.
I better get in front of the story.
Yeah, I have to get in front of it before it gets in front of me. So in this documentary, it makes her seem like this very naive, but like I'm like, okay, I don't believe she had anything to do with like planning or committing the murder.
Right.
However, she is a garbage human being. 1,000% in my mind.
I agree with that.
So investigators are still pushing Chris. You know they aren't coming back home, Chris. And he says, I cheated on her. And investigators say, I know. Basically, the 5 weeks she was gone with the girls, he was with his girlfriend, Nicole, which we just talked about. So they keep pressing. And Chris asks to speak to his dad. So when the investigators leave the room and his dad comes in, this is where he cracks and he mutters, I don't want to protect her. And his dad says, did she hurt him? Did she hurt them? And he says, yeah, I had to kill her. And he says, she smothered them or choked them. And I go, you think you know exactly what she did. Also, why didn't you intervene? You saw this happening. Pretty sure you're a 180-pound ripped dude. Fucking stupid story to try to make up. So basically, his story is that...
Well, he didn't say he saw it happening, if I recall correctly.
No, he did. He said that he watched it on a baby monitor.
He watched it on the baby monitor.
Yes,
Okay.
and
So
this
you
was
saw
in
her
the,
smothering.
this was in the
one of
sealed
them.
court documents. He said that he had watched it on a baby monitor.
I'm just going with what's in the documentary, because what was in the documentary was when I got to them, they were both blue.
Right.
So from that standpoint, it's he didn't see it happen.
Right.
It
No,
was
he
he came upon them already dead.
Well, he probably had 5 million different stories. So
And
who
for them to
knows?
be blue, they'd have to be dead.
Yeah,
for
like
a hot minute.
dead for a long time. So,
Especially with the suffocation that happens
For a
pretty quickly.
minute.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so basically, what he's saying is like, Shanann killed the girls. That's why I had
And then
to
I
kill
snapped.
her.
Yeah.
They know. Sorry, I'm just reading. They don't show. Oh, they show then at this point police going through the house on a warrant, towing Chris's truck and taking evidence, and then they go back to the interview and police are pushing him to find out where the bodies are. And he confesses they are at the first location he went that day, meaning his work at an oil field. Police leave the interrogation room and he says Shanann is buried and the girls are in an oil tank. He identifies exactly where Shanann and the girls are, and an officer says, or this was the FBI.
Just to take a step back, his dad is horrified. Like you can see
Yeah.
the look on his dad's
As he
face
should be.
as well. Yeah, but I mean, like his dad. Like I can't even imagine being in the dad's situation where you're like, oh my god,
my
he
kid's
just-
a fucking monster.
yeah, and he just
Right.
killed
My kid's a
he killed
fucking
my
monster.
grandchildren and his yeah.
So,
terrible.
the female FBI agent says, "Are you okay with the public knowing that Shanann hurt her daughters?" And he says, "I didn't touch them." And the officers are basically having none of it.
Oh no, and she
they're
repeats
yeah,
the same
she
question.
does. She's
like,
so
no,
you're okay.
So you're okay.
knowing that you're telling the public that
Yeah.
Shanann hurt her
Yeah,
daughter.
that's how you want that to go
That's
down.
how
Yeah.
you're going down with this ship, right? Can we take a break?
Sure. So again, thinking it through, I can understand why, because now you're talking about the difference between even murder 2, or getting down to a crime of passion, manslaughter, not premeditation, and it's not
Yeah.
3 counts. It's not 3 counts.
Yeah.
It's 1, and it was because of this, and so heat of the moment, and yada yada yada, and so I mean, he's still he's bobbing and weaving, he's
Yeah.
jabbing, he's. But yes, so
But
I
it's
will-
all just so fruitless and crazy. So, I don't
all right.
know.
So we